As we navigate our hip journeys, one of the most challenging things can be trying to figure out what is a normal ache or pain and sort of the healing process versus what is something that might be a setback or some pain that I need to worry about.
I'm just past my most recent setback, which was due to bone inflammation.
I wish that I'd paid better attention to my surgeon's words of wisdom. He said, the key sign that you're overdoing it is thigh pain. If you're experiencing thigh pain after total hip replacement, it might be bone inflammation, and this video might help you understand what caused it and how to solve it. This video is divided into three main sections. There's a summary, some additional details, and then my weekly vlog entries. And I would say if you want to have a general understanding of setbacks and how to avoid them and how to identify them, then watch the summary. If you want to have a more in-depth understanding of that topic, you can go into the details. And then finally, if you're suffering with some sort of a setback and you're trying to figure out if it's something similar to what I have or something different, then you might want to listen to the vlog entries at the end, because I did a pretty good job on a weekly basis of tracking my issue as I was trying to troubleshoot it and also through the successful recovery. I wanted to share some great resources if you haven't already checked them out. I've made it easy by including links in this video's description. My website, hipvlog.org, contains lots of helpful resources, including an email system that will send you timely tips and information directly to your inbox throughout your hip journey. So I hope you'll take a minute now to invest in your recovery by subscribing to my YouTube channel, website, and Facebook groups. If you like my content, please share it with others and check out my other YouTube channel, Game of Life 411. Who knows, we might have some other interests in common. Thanks for watching, and now back to the video. I'm all about inspirational music, and I love having it in my playlist for working out, for my recovery workouts, from hip replacement, for getting work done, for whatever. Maybe I shouldn't have had that one in my playlist because I definitely overdid it a couple times during my recovery. Nothing dramatic, but I think it's important to remember to be the tortoise, not the hare. And anyhow. So after 9 to 12 months, you'll be fully healed. And while you might not be Superman, you will be a cyborg, which is also pretty cool. So why did I suffer from a bone inflammation setback at 6 months post-op? It's pretty simple, really. I was feeling so good that I overdid it. So I planned a big hiking trip. I went to Spain with a friend of mine. We hiked the Camino Santiago, specifically the Camino Inglés. That was 72 miles in 6 days. And then after that, we went to Portugal, where we did a lot of walking around. And then we played volleyball for quite a few hours one day. And I ignored the warning signs. I did want to mention that hiking or walking the Camino Santiago is a wonderful goal to do post-op total hip replacement. It's just, if I had done it a little bit differently, I don't think I would have encountered this setback. And I think all I would have had to do would be to just spread it out a little bit. So instead of doing it in 6 days, maybe doing it in 8 or 9 days, and or waiting another month or two post-op and just delaying the trip a little bit. I was feeling occasionally some discomfort in my thigh, and I thought, hey, I'm 6, 7 months post-op at this point. This is probably just nothing, right? And it'll go away. But what I was really doing was causing some inflammation in my bone, and that was sort of building over time. My surgeon told me that bone inflammation is something that happens not immediately, but it's sort of the cumulative effect of too much activity. So doing all that stuff in a period of a couple weeks was just too much. And in the end, I suffered greatly, and it took a long time to recover from that. So what is bone inflammation and what causes it? Hey, Bones, can you hand me that medical model over there? Thanks. This is very fancy. So this is meant to represent the prosthetic in your femur, right? And what causes bone inflammation, as my surgeon described it, is repetitive motion on that implant, and the bottom of the stem, which you can see here at the bottom of this vase, is pressing against the bottom of your femur. So walking, hiking, whatever. And if you listen, you can actually hear that the bottom is pressing against the bottom of the jar. So similarly, when you have a total hip replacement, the stem is in your femur bone, right? And it's kind of poking a little bit to the bottom there. And that repetitive motion is causing inflammation in your bone, which you then feel as pain in your thigh. And my surgeon warned me time and again, it's like when you feel pain in your thigh, that's a sign that you're overloading your implant. And so I did, in reviewing some of my daily vlogs, find that I had ignored some of those warning signs because, again, I just was feeling good in general. And I thought, oh, it's a little discomfort. I'll just ease off a little bit tomorrow, or I'll take some anti-inflammatories and I'll be fine. But in fact, that inflammation was building and building and building until it became a real problem. Recovery from bone inflammation took a very long time. It took a full 2 months. So I really hope that you all can avoid this type of a setback. And the way that that broke down was for 5 weeks, my surgeon told me that I had to drastically reduce my level of activity. So I went from 100% to probably about 20% of what I'd been doing. And then simultaneously, I'm icing and I'm taking anti-inflammatories and just trying to do everything I can to tamp down that inflammation. Then after 5 weeks, I had to spend the next 3 weeks very slowly and gradually easing back up to my previous level of activity. So it took a full 2 months to recover from that setback. Now, 2 years later, I can tell you that I feel fine and I successfully recovered from that. But I certainly wouldn't recommend it. So just be careful.
Here's some background on my situation. I shared this with my physician. I said, I'm concerned about a recent setback and wondering if I should come in for an x-ray or MRI. I'm experiencing aches in my hip, but mainly wincing moderate pain in my operative thigh/quad. To recap, at 6 months post-op, my recovery was going very well. I'd resumed most activities, including hiking up to 7 miles and playing sand volleyball up to 2 hours twice per week. I eased back into all my activities gradually over several months. On July 24th, I went on a 3-week trip to Spain and Portugal. This was my 6-month total hip replacement anniversary. On August 1st, I started hiking the Camino Santiago, which was 6 days and 72 miles in Spain. The hip performed great, no issues I could detect. On August 10th, a Thursday, our last day in Europe, I got the opportunity to play beach volleyball in Portugal, and I played more than usual, about 3 or 4 hours. On August 11th, that Friday, we spent the day in airports and airplanes returning to the US. This is never comfortable for me because of my height. Seating is always too tight and my legs are always bent in uncomfortable ways. The next day, August 12th, I played volleyball again here in Raleigh. Everything seemed okay as far as I can recall. However, the very next day, Sunday, August 13th, I went for a 4-mile walk before church. My operative thigh/quad was in significant discomfort with some moderate shooting/wincing pain. At times, I really had to focus to avoid limping. This week, August 14th through 20th, I've only been walking a few miles per day to stay active, icing my hip and thigh regularly, no volleyball, no long hikes. I did get a deep tissue massage Thursday, but the pain in my thigh and quad persists, as does the ache in my hip. I'm afraid something might not be right. What do you think?
First off, when I visited the doctor, the first thing they did was take an x-ray. And he said the x-ray looked great. For 7 months post-op, it looked like there was adequate bone integration with the implant. And like he said, everything looked fine. So then I talked to him about the history and the symptoms that I was experiencing, and this is what he had to say. Diagnosis: inflammation of the bone manifesting as thigh/quad pain. There may be a muscular component to the pain, but it is most likely just reflecting the underlying bone inflammation. And as I mentioned before, it was not any one activity that caused the problem. It was the cumulative effect of all the activities I was doing in sort of a compressed short time frame. The doctor's recommendation was to reduce activity, and he said continue reduced levels of activity for a couple of weeks in order to give the bone inflammation a chance to completely settle down, then slowly increase activity level. Since walking seems fine until the second or third mile, then he thought it was okay to do daily walks of 1 to 2 miles. Other activities are also okay, just not to excess. My thigh will tell me if I've overdone it. I mentioned that it already felt slightly better after resting for 1 week. So after this, I asked the doctor about anti-inflammatory drugs because I thought, oh, this is bone inflammation, so obviously an anti-inflammatory drug would be helpful. And he said, well, it depends on what you're going to take the drug for. And we had a good discussion about it. He said, if you're going to take the drug and then not change your behaviors, then the drug is actually not helping you and it might be hiding a bigger problem. But if I'm going to actually take it easy and use the drug as just another tool to knock out that inflammation, then he said that was good. And because I'm a fairly self-disciplined individual, I thought I could manage that, and that's exactly what I did. As a further compromise, what I agreed to do was to discontinue any of the anti-inflammatory drugs at least a couple days prior to recommencing any activity. That way I wouldn't be masking any of the symptoms. In conclusion, I was right to go ahead and schedule this appointment and to pursue it with my surgeon because he said things like this, if you leave them to go too long, they can actually have longer term and worse consequences. So I didn't want to do that. And I don't think I would have resolved it on my own. So it really took a significant reduction in activity and my doctor's advice for me to tackle it appropriately. So I'm really glad that I did this, and hopefully it will help you figure out whether or not, what you're suffering is something similar, or at least how to approach it and troubleshoot it. So for the past week, I did play volleyball twice, but I haven't really been walking a lot. I've just been doing like a mile or two most days, not even every day. I went for one short bike ride last Friday. That was my very first bike ride, but again, not aggressive, very short, very casual in style. And the good news is that it feels better. I just went for a 3 mile walk and I don't feel that pain in my quad or my thigh. So I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm going to continue taking the meloxicam for another week. I'm going to continue sort of keeping my activities pretty mild and moderate. And then I'm going to discontinue the meloxicam and see how things feel. And if they feel, back to normal, then I will slowly start increasing my activity level again in order to avoid re-aggravating that bone. I don't want to cause the bone inflammation to come back. So anyhow, cautiously optimistic after 2 weeks suffering with this setback, but hopefully, within 3 or 4 weeks total, I'll have it resolved again.
I went 4 miles around Shelley Lake. That's a little bit longer. I'm still suffering with bone inflammation in my operative thigh, actually my operative femur. And I wanted to try a little bit longer walk today. I am happy to report that I did not feel any pain in my thigh or my quad. So I think the healing process is continuing, and I'll continue to maintain a reduced activity level for another week or two just to make sure that inflammation completely dies out. I stopped taking the meloxicam 2 days ago, so it's been out of my system probably for a day. And yesterday I skipped volleyball, which I think was the right idea because I played last on Saturday and did a dive and didn't feel all that great afterwards for the last few days. So by skipping yesterday, that means it'll be about 10 days that I'll go without volleyball because I'm heading out of town in the morning to be with my parents. My mom is actually undergoing hip surgery as I record this. So anyhow, on my recovery from this latest setback, yesterday I did skip volleyball, but in the morning I went for a light 8-mile bike ride with my wife. And then late at night I went for about a 4-mile walk around Shelley Lake. So knock on wood, everything feels pretty good. I do feel some discomfort in my thigh, but it's not that same pain. And I think things are on the mend. So what I'm hoping is when I return from this trip to Indianapolis and resume volleyball, I'll sort of ease back into other activities like walking and hiking as well. But I'm hoping then I'll be past this bone inflammation and can start to slowly ease back into the previous level of activity. It's Sunday and I'm on the Monon Trail in Indianapolis. It is 4 weeks since I discovered my most recent setback, the bone inflammation as it was diagnosed by my doctor. I am in Indianapolis visiting my sister and parents. My mom just had hip replacement surgery done on Wednesday of this week. Like I said, it's Sunday. So helping with the recovery and to keep my dad company. I did fly on a very cramped discount airline to get here, and I'll leave tonight to go back to Raleigh, but I couldn't resist. I mean, $88 for a direct flight is just amazing. So I think that the cramped flights do contribute to, issues with these hip prosthetics, especially when you have long legs like I do. I'm going for a 4-mile walk this morning, which is a fairly moderate distance for me, especially being on nice, even paved surfaces. But I wanted to sort of unwind my legs and get them some normal motion and action because yesterday I spent the day at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway at a BMW track day. And that was exciting, but there is a lot of forces put on your legs, right? I mean, my right hip, where I had it replaced, is my driving leg. Thankfully, that felt fine after the track day yesterday. I discontinued the meloxicam almost 1 week ago because for this trip, I wanted to see if my bone inflammation symptoms had abated. And I wanted to see, if things were good. And so far, knock on wood, everything feels pretty good. So I was just listening to Gloria Estefan telling me to listen to that Congo beat, but I think I can control myself a little bit longer. I am 4.5 weeks into trying to recover from bone inflammation by reducing my level of activity and I think I've passed the mark. I played volleyball last night, and today I'm going for a very short 2-mile walk on the paved greenway. Little discomfort in my sort of thigh area, but very, very little, and nothing compared to what I was feeling a month ago. So everything seems to point toward this being behind me, and I'm going to slowly start increasing my level of activity again to what it was before this setback. So just wanted to provide that brief update. And I'm on no pain meds, no anti-inflammatories, nothing at the moment. 5 weeks into this bone inflammation setback. It's a gorgeous day here in Raleigh. I'm just completing, third mile of a 4-mile walk on our greenways, and had a massage yesterday. I think that helped loosen everything up, but feeling pretty good. It's September 18th, and I'm 5 or so weeks into the recovery for my latest setback from bone inflammation. Last 4 days I walked 4 miles, then 5 miles, then took a day off and did upper body weight workout, and then today I'm shooting for about 4.5 miles. I do feel some aches and pains in my hip, but nothing that I think is due to the bone inflammation. I feel like it's just normal aches and pains as part of my hip recovery, and so I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. It's September 18th, and I'm just back from that 4.5 mile walk around Shelley Lake, and I wanted to provide an update. So I did feel some pain during the walk, including some shooting pains, not shooting, but some pains in my quad and thigh and hip. And I hope that these are not signs of continued bone inflammation. I have to believe they're not, because they're not nearly as sharp and shooting, and they're not persistent. Like a lot of aches and pains, as you continue exercising, they kind of come and go. And then I also had some aches in my opposite hip, which is totally fine. So I'm hoping that it's just continued reconditioning, since I have been very inactive for the last 5 or 6 weeks, and just my body kind of getting back into things. But it is frustrating to try and figure out, it's like trying to read tea leaves or smoke signals or something, because we feel these things in our bodies, and then trying to understand what that actually means to something that might be happening down deep inside your bone, or in a joint. It's kind of maddening to me, but I guess we do the best we can and try to make the best choices we can based on what we understand. Hello to everybody. Hi everybody. This is Mike, as you know, my co-host in many of my hip vlogs. And today is my 8-month hip anniversary, so I thought it would be appropriate to have a hip vlog today. And I would just provide you with a few updates on my progress. I'm just past my most recent setback, which was due to bone inflammation. And I reduced my activity dramatically for about 5 weeks, and then over the last week, I have been slowly increasing my level of activity. I have been biking again, increasing my walking, not dramatically, but just slowly. I played volleyball twice this week, and when I played Thursday morning, it felt great. It was a very, very vigorous set of doubles, and I won more than my fair share, I think. Well, actually, I won 50%, but considering that one guy won all but one game and we're rotating partners, that was pretty good. So I felt pretty good that me and another guy beat him the one game that he lost. But afterwards, I felt really good, and I was pleasantly surprised. Okay, so I've procrastinated getting started with my morning workout long enough, and I will bid you adieu and hope you all are doing great in your individual hip journeys. Mike, do you want to say goodbye? Come here. Come here. Come here. Come here. Yes, that's a good kitty. Come here, buddy. Let's say goodbye to everybody. Say goodbye. Bye, everybody. It's your world, and I'm just a squirrel trying to get a nut to move your butt. Explore all the free resources and helpful information throughout your hip journey by joining the Pete's Hip Vlog community and subscribing to my YouTube channel, Pete's Hip Vlog. If you like my content, I hope you'll also check out and subscribe to my primary channel, Game of Life 411, where my goal is to help you win at the game of life, whether that means finance, family, fitness,